All right, what's up? We are back in Brooklyn. We're back from the trip. We just had an incredible trip. Man, I always love to make that music fade at the end, but nope, we'll just stop it like that. All right, so good morning, first of all. It's been an incredible 6 days away. We were at Coast of Maine, up at KDS on the north side, and we spent a night over at the south side, and that was incredible too. But we're doing health, right? We got Daily Dads later today at 8:30 a.m. And then later today, we're going to do another Health Dads with the amazing BroFit out in Arizona. That's going to be at 1:30 Eastern. So you got to check that out. Talking a little more about training, fitness side of things. But today, as I try and dodge these sirens, let's take it right here. How's that? As we try and dodge those sirens, we will. Well, look, it's health. We got blood sugar. We got something that I feel like people just will not so much touch on and don't understand very well. And I think that a lot of people get caught in the minutia of all things nutrition and these small parts of food and these additives, everything that's going to be going into their food, but missing, I think, the big, like, people want to move pebbles instead of actually moving rocks and boulders with their health. And so I hear people worrying about something like, say, some sort of stabilizer or some sort of additive to make the texture of a food different in more of a, a packaged food. And they think that's the thing that's kind of ruining their health, but they completely don't even touch the idea of blood sugar control. Blood sugar control being probably one of the main factors that is going to affect things just like your energy throughout the day. It's going to affect your brain health in later life. And even right now, it's going to affect how much muscle you're able to actually build. It's going to affect even just your energy throughout the day. Like, there's so many things that blood sugar can do for you, but people will fall into the trap of worrying about the minutia. So 3 things that I want to talk about with blood sugar. I always try to make these done within about 20 minutes because we're not here to waste time. We're here to hit on these good points for health and nutrition too. So if you're someone who has controlled their blood sugar, if you know how to control your blood sugar, please share it up. And who we got in the comments over here? We got Robbie. Oh, Robbie, you know what? Robbie, can we do a walking? Because you said it yesterday. This is your idea. Can we do a walking type of something going on, a walking convo? I think you did Spaces. I'd love to do like more Spaces. Blaze has been heading up the Spaces though, and he's so good at it. I always say he's such an incredible moderator. So if it's possible, oh my gosh, there's so much noise. But Robbie, let's definitely do that if we can. And if you already have your own walking podcast set up and going, you do your thing. But I would love to join in any capacity for either one episode or not. Anyway. Blood sugar control, which is something I think that a lot of people, it's like a general part of overall health. And I think that people they'd rather argue the smaller points, but they don't think that it's as impactful for people to focus on. I don't know what it is. And to be honest, I think as a dietitian, it's something that I forget that people just don't know sometimes. And that's totally fine. Like, if you don't know, that's okay. I mentioned this with BroFit on one of our other health dads, that sometimes like we're just thinking at levels up here. We're looking at new research. We're trying to figure out ways to optimize performance and brain health and muscle health and all these things. And we just forget like those simple bits of information. And I was reminded this when, and Nath, just want to make sure I'm calling out. I see you there too. So that's awesome. Oh, thank you for saying welcome home, Robbie. I appreciate that. We'll click on these because I can. But blood sugar control. We can control blood sugar health so easily. And this is the idea that I always talk about. Number 1, right? We're going to touch on 3 things. We can touch on so many more, but 3 things right now so we can be really clear on this. Number 1 is going to be inclusion of simple foods, because this is how I like to teach my clients. I would teach my older, very problematic, uncontrolled diabetics. I would say this to them, and I'd be sitting across the table. I would say, I'm going to give you a sugar cube. I'm going to give you a sugar cube and I'm going to put it in front of you. I'm going to take a sugar cube and I'm going to put it in front of me. And if we both eat this right now, it's going to increase our blood sugar. Now, for an individual that's going to be more sedentary, sitting around for whatever reason, right? No judgment on anything there. But if you are going to decide to be sedentary, you're probably not going to use that sugar in that sugar cube as much. Sorry if it's so loud, my God. But you can definitely have that sugar cube, but I can still control your blood sugar with you still eating it. How can you do that? You can control your blood sugar so simply just by, with that sugar cube, eating some protein, right? So protein itself is going to digest slower. Protein itself is going to digest, I'm going to run across the street here. Protein itself is going to digest slower. Protein itself doesn't really have much carbohydrates, so it's going to end up controlling the blood sugar just by itself. And then you can do that, right? So you making sure you do that, number one. So have something just like, you can do chicken, you can do a Greek yogurt, you could do something like tofu with it, just adding some sort of protein to it, right? Then I can continue to control your blood sugar with you still eating that sugar cube. Now, I'm not saying to eat that sugar cube, I'm just making a point. If you now also include fiber, and specifically soluble fiber, just to not get too deep into it, I love fiber, very close to my heart, but if we can include foods that are higher in soluble fiber, easy enough. If you want to think about seeds and nuts, things just like chia seeds, very high in soluble fiber. Vegetables, broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, carrots, fruit, berries, mango, apricots, pears. What's another one I always say? Oranges. Those are all going to be higher in soluble fiber, more like this gelatinous type of fiber that forms the gel within your gut. So now, if you have just New York. But you include with that sugar cube that you now are going to be eating more food, right? You're including things instead of excluding things. If you do those things together, you can make sure that you are going to control your blood sugar by making sure you include those things, because so many people will just say, don't, you can't, restrict. Again, I'm not telling you to eat sugar cubes or any of that. But when we talk about carbohydrate, instead of hearing the message that you can't eat carbohydrates, that's what messes people up in terms of energy, the benefits, the nutrient benefits, the things just like higher amounts of thiamine, things like higher amounts of vitamin E, things like vitamin K, that can all come within certain grains and other carbohydrates, not to even mention just the joy of being able to enjoy this kind of foods, culture, connection, all those kind of things. So we don't want to start to tell people they can't have those foods, because if they can't, we might have an issue, right? So including things with your food, right? So even if you're someone who loves a sandwich, well, you can still eat a sandwich just fine. Are there benefits to different kinds of bread? Yeah, you know what? A pumpernickel bread's going to be higher in soluble fiber, but not everyone's going to like that kind of thing. So if we can make sure that we are including foods in there, know what a protein is, know what a soluble fiber is. And I'm not even talking about the inclusion of fat. Most fats can come from your proteins, but now we include a fat, something just like a hummus, something like an avocado, something just like even any kind of oil that also digests very slowly, and it will control your blood sugar. Be inclusive before being exclusive every single time. You need to be that. If you're not, it is going to be a restrictive diet, and restriction will always lead to rebellion. Okay? So we always need to make sure that we do that. Number two is going to be, of the three things I want to mention, right? There's so many more things on blood sugar control that we can mention. But remember, number one is making sure that we are being inclusive with your carbohydrates. Now, control your carbohydrate amount, but I know with my athletes, my more active individuals, eating closer to 200 grams of carbohydrate a day is almost necessary. If you're less active, of course, you're not going to need that much, but it's going to be something that if you include protein, fiber, specifically soluble fiber, and fat within your meals, you will control your blood sugar. You will be just fine. The fact is that we end up eating these large portions of carbohydrate by themselves. Sometimes that's the bigger issue. Number two is going to be movement, right? Now, I was just reminded of this, that some people don't know that as we move our muscle, as we squeeze our muscle, whether it's walking, whether it's lifting, whether it's just a body weight squat, whether it's a push-up, whether it's lifting your child, whatever's going on, when you move your muscle is what accepts and cleans out your blood, so to speak. And when you move your muscle, you are now going to basically open the doors for sugar to be shuttled into your muscle and cleanse or clear it out of your blood system, because your muscle uses blood sugar. We need blood sugar for movement. Those are the kind of things that we need to make sure that we continue to do. So if you want to control your blood sugar, just move. And it doesn't need to be anything extraordinary. Making sure that you are just walking can do that. Squeeze your muscle. I always tell my girls, number one, in the morning, first thing we do, we squeeze our muscle. Number two, we earn our tired. We move our body. But when we use our muscle, we open up the doors. We open up the cells in our muscle to accept that energy, to use it. If we don't move and we eat high amounts of energy, it just stays within the bloodstream. And that's what can lead to challenges with your high blood sugar, with high insulin at some point, as it breaks down the ability of your cells to actually accept insulin. That opens up the doors itself, right? So we have to make sure that we're moving, and moving after meals is very much associated with reducing your blood sugar by even 40%. So if you have your meals, you make sure that you're being inclusive. Include with your meals that have carbohydrate, because there's benefits to carbohydrate. I said thiamine, Nath. Thiamine is going to be something that can help with cell development, something that can help with energy regulation, all those things. But once we make sure that we're actually getting the protein in with the meal, as we end up eating that food that we really enjoy, protein, fat, fiber, protein, fat, fiber, protein, fat, fiber, be inclusive, have those things together. That's why snacking throughout the day, especially on these highly processed foods that are usually just higher in carbohydrate, they end up being the issue. Eat your meals, make sure that you include protein, fat, and fiber. Then make sure that you have some movement within your day. Now, not everyone is going to have a moment to move after dinner. Not everyone's going to be able to just have lunch at work and then get outside or do some body squats. I get it. But a lack of any movement is an issue. How many steps are you getting? If you don't know how many steps on average you're getting, if you don't know how long it takes you to move a mile, if you don't know how many push-ups you can do in 1 minute, if you don't know how many body squats you can do until your body gets tired, those are issues. If you can figure that out, you're going to give yourself the ability to make sure that you know how to control your blood sugar, what to work on, what to do, because even certain things around being able to do 40 push-ups in one minute, which sounds like a lot. I get it, but more push-ups is associated with longevity. Muscle health is associated with longevity. But if we can make sure that we are moving our muscle in any way, it helps. And if you want to follow the rule that I share with my daughters, right? Get up, squeeze your muscle, earn your tired by moving, and that ends up being exactly what you can definitely do. But don't be afraid of carbohydrate, because you can definitely control it. Carbohydrate is extremely necessary, and it can be within almost anyone's diet. The bigger issue tends to be people who eat it by themselves and the portion they end up having. So that's that, okay? The third one is important, because the third one is what is close to my people, what's close to my heart. And when it comes to blood sugar control and it comes to carbohydrate, if you are going to be someone who is over restricting it, you're not going to be able to actually get the energy from it that you need. So the third one is making sure that you do not overly restrict your carbohydrate. If you don't know how many grams of carbohydrate is in something, if you don't know how many grams of carbohydrate your body needs, if you don't know what a simple sugar is compared to a complex carbohydrate, those are things that you really should be getting down right now. But including carbohydrate in any meal is perfectly okay. And in many cases, for my active individuals, people who are going to be lifting, people who are going to be moving their body, people that are going to need to make sure that they're actually doing some sort of what we call a glycolytic kind of movement, which lifting is, carbohydrate before lifts is actually associated with more strength, more power, more explosiveness. That makes your workout more effective. A more effective workout is going to make you stronger over time. But whatever can help you do more work is going to help you see better health and body composition outcomes. So we can't think about restricting, making sure that we know and not demonizing things like sports drinks or gels or chews. New York City Marathon is going to be happening here soon. If any of my people thought that they shouldn't be having any kind of sugar during their runs, even before their runs, they're not going to be able to run as strong, and they're actually going to put their health at risk. So things like carbohydrates, things like sugars, those things are necessary to make sure that they're getting it into their body. I hear all the time people say that carbohydrates are not necessary whatsoever for overall health. Well, you know what else isn't necessary? 2 kidneys and 2 lungs. You know what else isn't necessary? Your home. So people are looking for organ donations. Go give up your kidney. Go give up something like your lung. Why wouldn't you? Because you lead a better, more efficient, happier life when you have your organs. The same thing with carbohydrate. We can definitely get by with it, without it. But if you end up deciding not to have the carbohydrate, you are going to be putting yourself in a position to not be able to perform as well, even feel as good, or enjoy life as much. So let's make sure that we understand controlling blood sugar is not